Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a bit different. I feel like I should say something about Ugnots and Jawas, but I don't really feel like that's quite appropriate because this is a new show presented by Mando Talk. It's called Geekverse Reactions, and look at us, baby. It looks very similar, if you're over on YouTube. We still got the blue, we got Rebel Scum's green going. The only thing different right now currently is, we got Geekverse Reactions there as our logo right there on that YouTube platform, and I'm excited to do this. So we don't really have norms yet, like we don't have the Ugnots and Jawas intro, we don't really have the We Have Spoken outro, but it's more so just having fun. So let me real quickly, actually before I do that, what is up, Rebel Scum Texan, DJ Foster? You are back. How's it going? How excited are you to start this Geekverse Reactions platform, if you will?
I'm stoked. As you've said on Mando Talk, this is always a Star Wars podcast, and I think I can speak for the both of us when I say you and I live and breathe Star Wars.
Yes.
But like a lot of Star Wars fans, we have other things we like, in our own little geekverse and our own little, I guess, multiverses, if you will. So, I think it's going to be a good time to talk about these things. Cause we said this before we started the show, but we are living in a time that's just perfect for us to talk about all these different kinds of fandoms that are out there. So I'm stoked to talk about it and get into what we've got for tonight.
Absolutely. Well, listen, before we get into that, I do just want to make a couple things just perfectly 1000% clear as far as what Geekverse Reactions is. Just straight up, anything geek, anything nerd, anything fandom, we're going to talk about it. Like DJ mentioned, we are Star Wars first primarily, and sometimes I'm sure Star Wars is going to leak into these conversations because, to be completely honest, for me, for other geek and fandom things, you can tell sometimes that Star Wars has impacted those things.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, any chance I can, I'm going to mention it, but we're going to try to pause and not necessarily go strictly into Star Wars as much as possible with this platform. DJ, you going to say something?
Yeah, to jump from what you just said, I've said I've argued, brother, I have argued with people over this that you do not have modern cinema without Star Wars.
You're correct.
You just don't. And you don't get things like Avengers Endgame. You don't get things like the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. You just don't get these kinds of things without Star Wars being in the mix. The original 1977 A New Hope, before it was even called A New Hope. You don't get the Geekverse without Star Wars, I feel like.
Absolutely. Well, like we mentioned, we'll talk about Star Wars when it comes up. It's going to naturally happen. But Geekverse Reactions, we're going to start doing this every Tuesday night live at 8:30 CST over here on YouTube. But I do want to, just make a little adjustment, and props to DJ for kind of giving some feedback and input on this. We are just going to go ahead and also share this recording, this audio version of it to our podcast platforms, but we will conveniently label it as Geekverse Reactions for those of our podcast listeners that, would like that convenience. For me, as far as my, mental psychoness, I would like to see, Mando Talk labeled Mando Talk, Geekverse Reactions labeled Geekverse Reactions.
Absolutely.
So we'll do it that way so you kind of know what to expect before you hit play, and we appreciate you hitting play. Thank you so much for caring enough to listen to what we have to say about Star Wars and Geekverse things, and that's truly humbling, and I can't wait to continue to do it. And speaking of that as well too, those of you here on YouTube, here live, watching on the playback, if you have not hit that subscribe button yet, please do that. For a while we've been talking about 100 subscribers by the time that the Book of Boba Fett hits. How far away are we, DJ?
23, man.
23.
23 subs away, man. Absolutely.
Let's
get 23 tonight.
23 tonight. Let's go.
Tonight, we're going to get somewhere.
No, but we would really appreciate it if you could help us get to that goal because, I really do think that once we hit that, things might kind of start rolling our way a little bit. Some cool things might be coming down the pipeline. So click that subscribe button if you have not done so. Okay, that was a lot of kind of basic intro stuff, but I feel like since it was the first time we have done it, I felt like that was necessary. So we are now, though, ready to officially react to some Geekverse topics. But since this is the first time that we are doing this, we wanted to share like our top 5, if you will, or dive into what other universes, what other things in the Geekverse do we love outside of Star Wars. You know that we love Star Wars, but you don't maybe necessarily know everything else that we love. So we're going to go ahead and get that kick started. DJ, why don't you take it away?
I would love to, man. So what other universes do we love outside of Star Wars? I think this is a fantastic thing for us to jump into before we get into the rest of the future that is going to be Geekverse Reactions. So why don't we do this, if that's all right with you? I'll say one, you say one, and we'll just flip flop back and forth.
Sure, absolutely.
And we'll do our top 5, okay? And I don't know if you have a bonus. I have a bonus.
I actually have 2 bonuses.
Then I don't feel bad adding a second bonus because I have a second bonus. Okay. So you're going to get our top 14 fandoms in no particular order. So putting Star Wars aside. Okay.
Right.
I feel like we have to put Star Wars aside because on Thursdays we're Mando Talk,
right?
Absolutely. So right now let's talk about the other one. So I'll go first. My number 1 behind.
Are we going number 1 or are we going like honorable mentions or like, is there an order we should go?
I feel like we should save our honorable mentions, and we'll do that. You know what? Let's go from the bottom to the top.
From 5 to 1.
5 to 1, and then in between 2 and 1 to set the anticipation.
Ooh, I like this.
We'll do our bonuses. This. Yeah.
Let's
okay.
Go. Okay.
All right. So number 6. No, I'm sorry. Number 5. Number 5 for me is straight up just Batman. Batman. I love Batman. For me, my love for Batman started honestly with the Dark Knight trilogy. And I think that a lot of people our age, us millennials, we would be able to say, oh yeah, Christian Bale's my Batman.
Yeah.
And even when you go back in time and you look at all the different men who have played Batman, whether it was animated or live action, of course, a lot of the times we only talk about the live action actors who've played Batman. But it's hard to go without mentioning Adam West, Michael Keaton. We could probably go without mentioning Val Kilmer or George Clooney, but it's a part of the legacy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. And now we have Robert Pattinson coming up, which I thought at first, why? And then they dropped that glorious trailer, which was on my birthday last year.
Ooh, so that's a good birthday present.
I got a great birthday present. So thank you, Warner Brothers. Appreciate that. But I love Batman so much. I think Batman's just the coolest. So that's my number 5. What's your number 5?
Man, I know that you're going to not be a fan of how far down this is for me. But my number 5 is the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh.
Now, I know Lord of the Rings is epic. It's incredible. But just something about it, you watch the movies and you are fully enamored and taken into that realm and that atmosphere, and it blows me away. Now, to be completely honest, I do feel like of all the ones here on the list, I think I haven't done a great job myself as a fan of diving into it as much as it deserves. And with that said, I think if I was to dive deeper into it, I think it might climb up the list. But honestly, I've kind of gotten like sidetracked, if you will, as I've gone on with my adult life, and I've kind of, seen the flashiness of all these other franchises, and it kind of catches my eye. And I haven't really gone back and given Lord of the Rings more attention, but Lord of the Rings is good enough to be in my top 5, so I give it number 5. Now, if Jacob was here, again, if you're new to the show, Jacob, my brother, he would be punching me in the face. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, I I love Lord of the Rings, and I'll say this: it's in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it. Leave it.
That's what. Yeah. We'll get.
I'll
there.
leave it be for
We'll
now.
get
Where
there.
I'll say more about Lord of the Rings here in a minute.
Okay.
How about that? Okay. I'll go to my number 4 now. Now, this might surprise you how far down on the list it is on mine.
Okay.
Because, well, we're going to talk about it here in just a minute. My number 4 is just the entirety of the MCU.
Okay.
I like a lot of people, I keep up with the MCU quite frequently. In fact, I convinced the wife to go see Shang-Chi this weekend. So we're headed to the theater. We're headed to the theater. I'm gonna get me a fat icy and go refill it about 7 times. And well, before the trailers even end. But I've been a part, I feel like, of the MCU and for a long time. In fact, I said this before we started the show. I used to work at a movie theater, and I was there working when Avengers premiered May 4th, 2012. Wow. And let me tell you, you have never seen a theater more dirty, and you've never seen more people in waiting in line. It was the like blockbuster of the 3 years I worked there.
Yeah. And
I've never seen a movie like it since. I'm sure, it's different now because you can order your tickets ahead of time. We were still flirting with that idea in 2012. We hadn't really fully committed to that yet. So lines out the door, lines down the hallway. So for me, the MCU is just this incredible masterpiece that's just been beautifully woven together over a decade. And now going into almost 12 years, right? Coming into 2012, it'll be 2022 be 12 years. So it's been a long time coming. And plus, they keep coming up with these stories, and they're worth investing your time in.
Yes.
Just for the sake of storytelling, it's worth investing your time in. So for me, my number 4 is the MCU.
Okay, fair enough. I like that pick.
Where are you at? Where you at on number 4?
Is, you'll like this one, is simply the Batman.
The Batman.
Yeah, I love the character. I think it's really impressive, no matter who portrays the character or who gives their take on the character. Somehow it always feels fresh. Somehow it always feels like there's more to dive into with that character. And like you mentioned, we grew up with the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard to beat for me as far as a comic book trilogy goes ever. Like, that was incredible. But I think that there's a lot of potential with Robert Pattinson's Batman, if I'm being completely honest. I cannot wait to see that film, and we'll talk more about that later in this episode, and I can't wait to talk about that. But Batman, he just always ticks the radar for me. He always gets my attention. So Batman was, for the reasons you mentioned earlier and the reasons I just listed there, Batman's my number 4.
And for the record, those of you watching or listening, and shout out to our podcast listeners who are jumping in via wherever you're listening to us. I personally, before I was ever on the show, was listening on Spotify. So I prefer Spotify as a platform. However, thank you guys for listening. Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into my third one. And I've made this very public before. I have said in front of a large group of people, you can dog on me for liking Star Wars. You can dog on me for being a nerd for that all day. I will take it, because I've been taking it, as Cassian Andor said, since I was 6 years old and younger.
Yep.
So, but here's one thing I will never let anybody knock me down for this one.
Okay.
The Rocky franchise.
Ooh, I like that. Wow.
I love the Rocky and Creed movies.
Okay.
I mean, I have loved Rocky. Here's how. Okay, I just turned 27 years old just last week. For 27 years of my life, I've been a Rocky fan. Here's how I know this. When I was a baby, before I was even a year old, I couldn't stop crying at night, apparently. So what my dad did was he popped in Rocky, and as soon as it was in the VHS player, I stopped.
Wow.
Stop crying. And for years on, apparently that was how I got to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And so as far back as I can remember, I think Rocky was a part of my life before Star Wars was.
Okay.
So I have always been, a massive Rocky fan. And on top of that, when the Creed movies came out, oh, I was stoked. I mean, when Michael B. Jordan was cast as Apollo,
what a guy.
I mean, I absolutely. I mean, those movies are fantastic. And then Tessa Thompson playing his wife by the time you get to the second Creed movie. Now, here's something kind of interesting. And I don't know if I've said this on the show before, but my wife is actually deaf. And she wears hearing aids. Now, she's not totally deaf, but she has some major hearing impairments. And for me, when Creed came out and knowing Tessa Thompson's character was deaf, and then that plays into the second movie, and when they have a baby and the baby ends up being deaf. And I've said this on Twitter. I haven't said it on Mando Talk, but my wife and I are actually expecting our first baby.
Hey,
and
congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. But
not
knowing
breaking
that
news here, by the way, not breaking news.
No,
here. So
no.
I don't want people to think, oh, Caleb just gave a absolute fake congratulations.
No. Caleb's known for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
And so for me, watching him deal with his wife, watching him deal with his child, it strikes a chord with me. Not just as a Rocky fan, but and I got married to her before I think either Creed movie came out, or at least we were dating before then. So seeing that on the screen, I was like, oh, it hit me right where it needed to hit me. So my love for Rocky has just continued on through the Creed movies, and I will always be a Rocky fan. In fact, I've been to the Rocky Stairs in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's cool.
And run the Rocky Stairs. And by the way, the statue's still there. It's just off to the right-hand side of the stairs. It's really cool. It's a really cool experience. So the Rocky and Creed franchise, that's my number 3.
Okay. I like that. I like that. Now,
what's your number 3, man?
My number 3, I know you haven't seen it, Game of Thrones. I know like typically when you hear somebody explain it, they'll say like, oh, a modern take or type of Lord of the Rings. I don't think that's the case at all. Game of Thrones, for me, it's just the TV show format, I think, speaks to me more now at this age, where I like the week-to-week conversation. I mean, obviously, I started a podcast to talk about The Mandalorian week to week. So that style, and really, Game of Thrones is what inspired me to start a podcast. So that has a lot to do with it. But Game of Thrones, just the action, the set pieces, the thing it brought to television, not only did it set the stakes for, that show itself, but I think Game of Thrones has, like Star Wars as a film has impacted so much. I think Game of Thrones as a television show has impacted so much, because all the time you hear about, even Jon Favreau, and here we go, I'm incorporating Star Wars into this. Favreau's talked about how he wants to make The Mandalorian kind of like this Game of Thrones-esque, like big, overarching, massive story, and Game of Thrones really pulled that off. I mean, it's got swords, it's got blood, it's got dragons, it's got zombies, it's basically got everything that, us geeks want. So Game of Thrones was my number 3. I didn't want to dive too deep into that other than You Know Nothing, Jon Snow. And I know that's a reference that maybe you know nothing about, but
I got nothing.
Jon Snow, Kit Harington for life.
my Game of Thrones knowledge is literally to the extent of winter is coming.
Winter is coming. That's right.
And even that I have no idea what that means. I'm just like, man. every fall I just am like, oh, winter's coming. And I'm like, I don't know what that means.
You say it 24/7, 365. It could be the middle of July, burning up. Winter's coming. It's always
absolutely
coming.
Yes. And I feel like it's way more ominous than I realize. I might have to jump into Game of Thrones and just bite the bullet.
And I know there's some things in there, that is very vulgar and very revealing. But they invent the fast forward button if you need to. Just click that. True. Click that thing a couple times.
Click, you're good to go.
A lot of times, maybe.
I've heard, especially in season 1. I don't know anything beyond that.
Season 1.
Yeah, but that's all. It's all good, and I don't knock you for liking the show. I'm as big a fan as any other Geekverse stuff as the next guy.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and jump into my top.
Ooh,
my number 2. I don't want to say number 2 because number 2 stinks, but not in this case.
Top 2, baby.
My top 2, and then we'll get into my honorable mention, my bonuses.
Yeah.
Or we'll go to your second, and then we'll jump back. But Indiana Jones.
Okay. Yeah. Now we're talking, baby.
I mean, it's a Star Wars adjacent, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I don't really remember when I was introduced to Indy, but I know it was after I was introduced to Star Wars. And I think it was like, oh, my dad introduced me to Star Wars, but I think he was like, oh, you like this? Well, maybe you'll also like this. And I've said it on the podcast. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm a Christian and I'm a pastor. My dad is a pastor. And he's like, oh, you'll love this because it deals with the Ark of the Covenant. And I was like, what's the Ark of the Covenant?
Yeah.
And it was a nice way for him to teach me what the Old Testament talks about on that. So on top of that, now I love Raiders, but my favorite Indiana Jones is actually The Last Crusade.
Okay.
And that was my introduction to Sean Connery.
Yeah. Absolute legend.
I mean, and I hate that he passed away. I mean, I know we all have to someday, but man, he was just a cool guy, cool old man. And he was just the best, I feel like, as Indy's dad, which I don't know if you know this, they're only 8 years apart in age.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Connery and Ford?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Isn't that wild? And they play that father-son thing so well.
Yeah, they do.
So I love Indiana Jones, and I think I'm super excited for Indy 5.
Yeah, me too.
Like, and when Harrison Ford got injured recently, I was like, I mean, he's 70 some odd years old. It only makes sense that, you know, he would get injured. But like the fact that they're out there doing an Indiana Jones 5 and we're like at a point in time where we can see it is amazing to me. So Indy's my number 2. Let me hear yours.
And
then we'll go into our bonuses.
This is going to be really easy then. Number 2, Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Indiana Jones, for me, you know, I specifically remember this moment, and I'm honestly already kind of getting emotional thinking about it. I was like,
power through 6,
7, the very first box set of a franchise that I got as a kid for Christmas. I remember coming down the steps of my boss and granny's house, running to the tree, and it's not even wrapped. The whole pack is just kind of out and front and center. Indiana Jones right in the middle of the tree. And,
that's cool.
I still remember that moment. I still remember seeing it. I remember wanting to watch it as soon as I saw it. So I actually have a memory of Indiana Jones prior to any other of these franchises that we've mentioned, even Star Wars. Indiana Jones was my introduction to Harrison Ford. And I feel like that is what honestly maybe made me go and visit Star Wars so much initially, was because Harrison Ford was so cool. So Indiana Jones for me, things you mentioned again as well, and then you know just that kind of emotional connection there make Indiana Jones my number 2. And like you said, Indiana Jones 5, you know, all the hate you want to throw at that, don't care. I'm pumped for that movie. Anytime you can get Harrison Ford with a whip and that hat, give it to me. I'll be there.
And honestly, I said Rocky was 3 and then Indy was 2, but like they go back and forth at times for me.
Really?
So Indiana Jones and Rocky have always been these things for me too. But you know, I don't want people to mess with Indiana Jones either. Like, I'm very protective of my love for Rocky. I'm also very protective of my love for Indy. In fact, at our church a couple years ago, we did a whole vacation Bible school. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but our theme was Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And it was a ton of fun with this kid that was in my youth group. I was like teaching him how to be Indy. He'd never seen an Indiana Jones movie. So I was like, oh, let me show you what you need to do. Cause he was playing Indiana Jones in the skits we were doing.
Yeah.
He did a really good job when it was all said and done, but I got to coach him on how to be Indy, and that was fun.
That's cool.
So I'm really super appreciate that number 2 is the same on both of our lists. I think that's awesome. So I have 2 bonuses. I'll say them really quick, and then we can get to your bonuses so we can get to number 1.
Sure.
My first one is The Office.
Oh,
the U.S. Office. Okay. I love The Office. When it left Netflix, I was distraught. So I actually already owned all 9 seasons on DVD, which I still have.
Yeah.
But now that it's back on Peacock with seasons 1 through 5, I'm kind of working through seasons 1 through 5 right now.
There you go.
And the other thing, and I'm not sure if this counts as a geek fandom thing, but it's an interest that's geek related.
Okay.
I have this weird thing where I really like dragons. I think dragons are super cool. And I actually, you know, this is going to put me in a box, I feel like. And I shared this with you at the end of Mando Talk after we got done recording last last week. But
okay.
I also believe that dragons and dinosaurs are the same thing. You can call me crazy if you want. That's fine. I'll leave it at that. But I think dragons are super dope. The idea of something being able to breathe fire and fly and do all sorts of crazy things is just really cool to me. So The Office and dragons. There you go. I don't think you can get any dorkier than that.
Sure.
I really don't think you can.
That's fine. That's fine.
Let me hear. I want to hear yours. Yeah.
Was just, the DC as a whole. Because outside of Batman, Superman gets my interest, Wonder Woman, but outside of that, it's just kind of like, I'll watch it, I'll enjoy it. But yeah, just DC as a whole, I would throw that as an honorable mention. Now, this next one might surprise you, and we were kind of talking about this before we went live. And I might get hate for this.
Oh, no.
It is J.J. Abrams' Star Trek.
Oh, I'm with you.
I love the first one, and I love the second one. Now, the third one, it's questionable. It's there. Yeah. And I guess that, again, everyone out there has heard it. J.J. Abrams, Star Trek, people say, oh, it's Star Trek Wars. Come on now.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I love it. Let's be honest. That's probably why it's on my honorable mention list.
Well, he snuck R2-D2 into the first one.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
And for those of you who are finding that out for the first time, go Google that one, because that's hilarious when you see R2 doing one of these through space. It's hilarious.
It is.
I'm with you on that one. I'll put that as my third honorable mention.
There you go. Nice.
Because I think I love those J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. They're fantastic. And it came to us in an era where there was no Star Wars.
That is true. And I also think that's what kind of plays at it. I feel like if Star Wars and Star Trek had come out at the same time, I would have then subscribed to this feud between the two. Like I would have said, oh, Star Wars is far superior. I don't have time for Star Trek.
Yes.
But because it came when it did, I think that has, honestly, for our generation, made that whole, divide or argument that used to be there completely irrelevant. That just might be my opinion, at least for our age kind of people. Am I crazy for that?
No, I don't think so. I think for people our age, millennials, 20-something, 30-somethings, I think that is very on brand, very, very fair.
Okay.
However, what always annoyed me growing up, and honestly kind of still does, is when it's like, oh, I don't know the difference between Star Trek, Star Wars, blah, blah. I'm like, there's a very big difference. And so for those who are like with me on that, I think you'll understand those kinds of deals. And I'm with you. I think that J.J. Abrams, having dipped his toe in both rivers, if you will, I think definitely
I'm just dying
solidifies that.
Because I know if my dad, if he's watching or listening, he's one of those that, if I say I'm going to throw Star Trek on or something, he's going to be like, is that the one with that hairy carpet that walks around? Talking about Chewbacca. So he very much is down that lane of, it's all the same thing.
Yeah. And I think most people are, but like real, they're very different.
Absolutely. Well, let's get to our top ones, baby.
Absolutely. Number one for me, Lord of the Rings.
I'm not surprised.
I love Lord of the Rings.
Not surprised at all. What is this? Listen, like 3 or what you're like admin of like 3 different Lord of the Rings groups?
No, just one. I'm the moderator for a Facebook group called Middle Earth Theological Seminary.
Shameless plug.
It's shameless plug, but it's a blast with those guys on there, and I love hanging out with them and talking. And sometimes it gets a little hectic in the comment section, as all social media does, but it's mostly just for memes. Just Lord of the Rings memes. If you're a memer, I don't think that's a word.
But if you, a word.
I don't know. Yeah, but if you're one of those people who enjoys making memes for Lord of the Rings, check out Middle Earth Theological Seminary. Me and one of the other moderators are currently working on another Facebook group called Rebel Alliance Theological Seminary. We've yet to launch it, but if it wasn't for
seminary verse.
It is. And there's also a Dunder Mifflin Theological Seminary for you Office fans out there.
That is incredible.
Middle Earth and Dunder Mifflin have almost 10,000 members each. So that's a lot of dorky people out there sharing a lot of dorky memes, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But those were 2 shameless plugs. I'm not any kind of affiliation with the Dunder Mifflin other than I'm a member.
Yeah.
But anyway, Lord of the Rings is one of those things I revisit every winter. It's my comfort movie franchise. Between like December and February, I rewatch all 3 of those, and I have the extended editions, baby. So I invest my time into that one, and then go and watch all that glorious behind the scenes material, which honestly helped me fall in love with filmmaking. I still consider myself to be like a film researcher. So I enjoy watching behind the scenes, and it has a lot to do with those Lord of the Rings movies. And of course, The Hobbit comes with that. That's kind of like an addendum.
Okay. And see, that's why I was trying very specifically when I said Lord of the Rings at number 5. I hope I throw it in the word trilogy.
You did.
If not, okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, you did. And I enjoy The Hobbit. I have my issues like a lot of people do. Yeah. I personally believe The Hobbit should have just been 2 movies. I don't think it needed to be a trilogy. And they literally did that for 2 reasons. 1, Lord of the Rings was a trilogy. 2, money. That was it. It's all about that green.
Yep.
All about that green. But anyway, I love Lord of the Rings, have for a long time. I enjoy reading the books, and even the extension from those books, the Silmarillion and others. And I've yet to go see The Green Knight, the movie that just came out, because that was actually based on Tolkien's adaptation of that story.
Oh, okay.
So I've yet to go see it. I need to. I want to. I just haven't got around to doing that. So hopefully before too long, I can go see that, because it's basically Lord of the Rings. I mean, let's be real. It's basically Lord of the Rings. So I'm a big Lord. I call it Loader. L-O-T-R. Loader. I'm a big Loader fan. So good times in Middle Earth for sure. So I'm anxious. What's your number 1?
Well, I think it's obvious, because it's the only one I haven't mentioned so far, and it is the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay.
I'm just okay. I
should have seen that coming.
I know I've had this conversation with Zach. If you asked me that 2 years ago, it's not even in my top 5, because I was in that moment. I was kind of, I guess maybe before Infinity War. Once Infinity War hit, that's when I was like, okay, they just spent 20-something movies building all of this up to tell this incredible story that deserves my attention, and 2, respect. And it was at that point when I started to then go back and make sure that I've seen all of them chronologically, not necessarily release order, but in the order of when the events occurred. And that really changed my perspective on the MCU, and I've come to just respect it so much. And like I said, before Infinity War came out, I was your angry Star Wars fan that was like, you know what, it's time for Star Wars to be king again. But once I saw Infinity War, I was just like, look, it's time for me to quit this pettiness. The MCU is doing something incredible. I need to enjoy it before it's over. And luckily, it looks like it's not even close to being over. They keep telling all of these great stories, these great tales, and they're still somehow connecting to all of this stuff that we've seen before, but yet it's also introducing some crazy, mind-boggling stuff coming down the line, and I can't wait to continue to see it. And maybe, this idea of not knowing what's to come also helps me put it in that number 1 spot.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, just that idea of, what's going to happen next keeps me intrigued with the MCU.
Well, especially after the events of Loki. I mean, specifically Loki, because that opened a whole can of worms.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're already seeing that with Spider-Man and all these other things. I mean, it's just a matter of time before we get literal insanity. I don't even know how else to put it. I'm with you. I mean, I feel like now I need to reevaluate my top 5.
Hey, no. You stick it. It was good. You had a good 5.
I have a good 5. High 5. There you go. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that those are all fantastic. So let us know in the comments what your top 5 fandoms outside of Star Wars are, and put that down in the comment section below the video. And again, I'm going to go ahead and plug it again. You plugged it up top, but go ahead and like the video and subscribe while you're there. It helps us out.
Yeah.
And share it around with your friends, your other nerdy friends, because listen, we all got nerdy friends. All right. So at least I hope you do. I'll be your nerdy friend if you don't have any nerdy friends.
All right. All of us here at Mando Talk / Geekverse Reactions will be your geek friend.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's it for our top whatever, 15, 14, however that ended up.
Well, and I think it was important for us to do that on this inaugural Geekverse Reactions episode.
For sure.
Because it's important for you as the listener or audience to realize that, we still have other passions. Obviously, I think maybe it's evident that I am very much more so passionate about Star Wars. Like, that's never going to be touched. But it's very clear that we have passions outside of that. And that's why we've started this. And hopefully us having a conversation back and forward there about our top 5 plus a couple of honorable mentions there kind of shows you kind of why we're going to keep doing this. And I hope that's enough for you to be like, you know what? These guys, they might not know it all, but they love talking about it. So I'm going to love listening to them. But with that said, I hope you enjoyed that. Tell us your top 5 Geekverse IPs, projects, franchises. We would love to hear them. You can tell us in the comments. You can tell us in our Discord. That link is in the description of the video or the podcast. But without further ado, kind of what we'll start doing when Geekverse Reactions continues to, pump out content each week. It'll be more so, like our news kind of episodes where we're going to talk about the recent news or the recent trailers to react to or the recent movies to kind of spoiler react to and review. We're going to start doing that kind of approach. Just guys hanging out, talking about things in the Geekverse and having fun with it. So the first thing that we actually want to talk about tonight is something that's in both of our top 5s as far as projects or characters at least that we love in the Geekverse, and that is the Batman. Now, we are specifically talking about Matt Reeves' Batman that's expected to come out next year. There was apparently recently somewhere, I'm not sure, maybe CinemaCon, something like that, there was an early test screening and early reactions in a Twitter thread from what I saw, and that Twitter thread was at Blu-ray Angel, for this Batman movie have been revealed. I don't know necessarily how much we can trust this Twitter thread or how accurate it is, but I do feel like it's important enough for us to at least mention here. And I'm just going to read through the thread, and at any point, DJ, if you want to cut me off and you feel like there's something important from the thread that you would like to discuss, please do. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, so tweet number 1 in this thread from Blu-ray Angel. It says, exclusive, I know someone who has seen the Batman. Friend of mine and a really good person. Here's what they told me. Thread, no spoilers. So we're not sharing any spoilers with the movie. We're just sharing some general ideas that this viewer wanted to share. The Batman movie is a horror movie, very graphic, very dark, very scary. Paul Dano is crazy, so scary. I loved every second. And Paul Dano, I believe, is the actor that is portraying the Riddler in this film. Yeah. So that would make sense from the trailer that we have seen. I think that matches out, and that would make sense to kind of just say as a broad blanket statement, obviously, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that it's really good. I think it's great that we're returning to the character of the Riddler. I know he was lightly teased in The Dark Knight, so lightly it was like almost not noticeable. But aside from that little moment, the last time we saw the Riddler on the silver screen was Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I mean, and let's be honest, that iteration of the Riddler is just like some kind of weird, all respect to Jim Carrey. He's a fantastic actor. I love him in most of his movies, but when you look at the Riddler, he's just doing an impression, like a very odd impression of whoever the heck the guy was who played the Riddler in the 60s. I don't know that actor's name, although he was a prominent actor during that time. I know he had guest spots on shows like The Munsters, So, when you look at him as an actor and what he did with the Riddler in the 60s, perfect. But, when you look at the Riddler in the 90s, and it's like, Jim, you could have done a little, and maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was Joel Schumacher. The director. I have no idea if it was that or what, but coming off of things like Joker, with Joaquin Phoenix or even Heath Ledger's Joker, and Harley Quinn being played by Margot Robbie. I mean, first of all, I know Birds of Prey was kind of whatever, but every other time Margot Robbie has been Harley Quinn, to me, it's a home run. I mean, she is Harley Quinn to me at this point. Yeah. And so the fact that we're going a direction with the Riddler and seeing him be like this insane guy. I mean, only from the trailers, the one trailer, just the little images and voiceovers we've gotten.
Yeah.
Wow. I just think it's incredible what we have coming down the pipe, so to speak.
Agree. And I agree with everything that you just mentioned. I can't wait to kind of see that kind of take on the Riddler. Again, if this thread is true, but I think the trailer was enough to show that we'll be getting that from this Batman movie. Next up in the Twitter thread here, the next tweet says the cut they saw of the Batman is 3 hours long. Sign me up for that. If that's
absolutely
the case, sign me up.
I'm
all
day
about longer films.
Yes.
Maybe not as long as the Snyder cut, don't get me wrong. But I think that 3 hour mark, I think we've kind of gotten there. I think as a fandom, as a fan base as a whole of, these Geekverse type of films, I think we've gotten to that point where everyone kind of wants to see 3 hour films of their favorite characters. Am I wrong with that?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I mean,
before
tell me if I'm wrong, guys out there that are listening.
And speaking of those who are listening, I just wanted to mention we had a couple people jump in the live chat. My brother Gavin, also known as TK421, over on Discord. We've yet to mention Discord. Join our Discord at Mando Talk. We got all kinds of goodies we're talking about over there. And then also, I don't think I've ever seen this name before.
Okay.
Diego Aguilar from Costa Rica. He says, "Hey guys, hello."
That's awesome.
Hello. Welcome to the show, Diego.
Yeah.
I'm stoked you're here. I hope you stick around because listen, I think you might be our first ever Costa Rican viewer.
That I know of, absolutely. That
there
I know
you go.
By name, yes.
And you are Mr. Mando Talk, so you would know. So congratulations, Diego Aguilar. I wonder if you have any relation to some of the people I know up here in Texas. I know an Aguilar nearby, but maybe not. Maybe who knows? But anyway, I'm back on this 3 hour cut of Batman. Absolutely, give it to me because listen, I just said I can listen. I rewatch Lord of the Rings at least once a year.
Yeah,
I can do that. Give me 3 hours of Batman. I mean, he straight up is just like, I'm vengeance. Like, come on.
You just gave me chills, man.
Listen,
you just gave me chills.
And I love doing Batman. Specifically, I love doing Christian Bale because you can, at any given moment, you can just go, where is she? And everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. Or Rachel! It's so much fun to scream like Christian Bale's Batman.
Sure. Yeah.
And with this, I'm vengeance. It's just enough.
Yeah.
It's just I feel like I have no idea if old Pattinson did this or not, but I feel like he took from the best parts of Bruce Wayne and said, this is what we're gonna get. So 3 hours all day. Yeah. I don't care.
Give me that. Just give me that. There's nothing else to say. Give me a 3 hour cut of the Batman. I'm there for it. Okay, next tweet. Their thoughts on Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I have a million things to say about Catwoman. She's my favorite. Definitely my favorite Catwoman. I don't really have too much to add to that other than I'm not honestly too surprised with the Catwoman portrayals that we've gotten in the past. They've been okay. I feel like they could have, been potentially better. Not to throw shots or anything. I've enjoyed the portrayals that we've gotten, but I think that Zoe is going to do something pretty remarkable with this character in this movie.
I bet so. I mean, I was following Gotham, the TV show, for its entire run, and I really enjoyed the actress who played Selena Kyle in that.
Mm-hmm.
And there were I feel like that show was kind of out there in a lot of ways, so it wasn't like the best Catwoman. Michelle Pfeiffer all day, though. I mean, until Zoe Kravitz, I see it. I'm going to stick with Michelle Pfeiffer. No shade at Anne Hathaway. I think it was good, but we'll see about Zoe Kravitz. I've never seen her in anything, so I have nothing to base it on.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see about that. But I'm all for that. I mean, it sounds like a good take thus far. We'll see. I think it's March of 2022 is when it's supposed to hit. So we'll see then, I guess.
All right. Well, let's combine these next two tweets since they're both kind of focused more so on Robert Pattinson's Batman. Tweet number 4, their thoughts on Robert Pattinson's Batman voice. His voice was perfect, in my opinion. And then their thoughts on his Batmobile. There's a lot of explicitives in this, but basically, my goodness gracious, it slayed.
Is that the rated G version?
Clean version.
My goodness gracious. Yes,
Hey,
I agree. I mean,
I try my best.
that Batmobile does look legit. I think it's like an ode to Adam West's Batmobile in a couple of spots, especially those rear fenders. Of course, the giant, jet coming out of the back is a must.
Well, and I like the simplicity of this Batmobile that we're getting this go around. Sign me up for that. I'm all for that. I really, really, really dig that.
Yeah, and I'm with it too. Honestly, it felt more grounded. Even and what's so funny is that the Dark Knight trilogy felt grounded, but this somehow feels more grounded.
Yeah,
and it's hard. It's kind of hard to say that, but it does. It feels a little bit more grounded. So I'm with you on the Batmobile. It looks sick. I can't wait to see it in action.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on with our tweet thread here. Closing opinion, but they add an update to this, so not necessarily the last tweet. There's a scene at the end that literally had everyone screaming, everyone gasped, like it was a big no way for everyone. I don't give a about Batman or DC.
Don't give a flying fadoodle.
I don't give a flying fadoodle about Batman or DC, and even I clenched onto a knee and was shook. It's the biggest, I'm assuming, mic drop. Biggest mic drop. Now, for me, as not necessarily, I guess, comic book deep heavy with Batman, so more so film based. When I read that, the Joker character is what comes to my mind. If they're really going the biggest mic drop, I mean, wouldn't potentially even, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker popping up somehow at the end, wouldn't that be a mic drop? But maybe not to that extent. Maybe it's just something as far as this iteration of Robert Pattinson's Batman goes, as far as maybe just character. But what do you think? What do you think of that kind of closing opinion tweet there?
Yeah, I've definitely heard rumors of another Joker movie. Not sure if that's been confirmed. Maybe maybe someone else can tell us in the comments if that's been confirmed. But or if you're listening to this later, tweet at us at Mando Talk or at Caleb J Killer 3 or at Rebelscom Texan. Any one of those three, get our attention and tell us. But I think the best thing to do, because not to steal your thunder for the next tweet, but we do know from this next tweet that it's been set up for a sequel.
Yeah.
So I think the best way to set it up for a sequel would be to take the end of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie and kind of tie that into Robert Pattinson's, because
that's beautiful. Yeah.
Because I don't see why not. I mean, I've read, there's an article that Screen Rant put out about Batman being played at CinemaCon. First screening, I think, is where that was, like you said earlier. And in there, it talks about I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. But it talks about the reactions, and just Joker in general kind of gets a little name drop in there. So I think that if we have some sort of a tie-in from the ending of Joker, which how long has that been out now? Like 2 years?
Yeah, it's been out for a while.
Okay, then I have no problem go ahead and throwing this little out there, because if you haven't seen Joker by now, one of two things: you have either held out way too long, or you're just not going to watch it. And I mean, Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar for this movie. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, two men have won Oscars for playing the Joker.
Yeah.
And Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger were, so the fact that we could set a scene up where, Joker is kind of the reason Batman's parents, Martha and Thomas Wayne, are killed, more or less, it's kind of a ripple effect there. I think it would be perfect to kind of tie into that, because we could have this really cool sequel to both of them.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. And I wish that that's what they would have done with Man of Steel, is had Man of Steel and then done a Batman movie and then Batman versus Superman, because I think that would have helped usher along the DCEU a little bit better. But this is what I was going to say a second ago. Robert Pattinson's Batman takes place on Earth 2. So within the multiverse of DC, this is a separate Batman. And we already had Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, and we already had Jared Leto as the Joker. Are these on separate Earths, or are these on separate different universes? I mean, if so, why can't we put Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, and Robert Pattinson's Batman together? Because we saw Ben Affleck and Jared Leto's Batman and Joker, respectively, in one small scene in Suicide Squad, the first one, and then also in what was it? The Snyder Cut of the Justice League.
Yeah.
So I kind of ranted there for a second. I apologize, but I think this is something that we could very easily see coming in with that this next tweet.
Yeah.
And I'll let you go ahead.
And I'll just go ahead and just read that tweet there to kind of finalize this discussion. Update, I just asked if the Batman sets up for a sequel. Here's what they said. Yes, def sequel. That's the oh crap moment there at the end. I genuinely felt like they're going to start a whole collection of Robert Pattinson Batman movies and circle through different villains maybe. So I definitely think that kind of lends itself to maybe a potential Joker tie-in.
Yeah.
But, again, I don't want to, set expectations so high. I don't need it to be Joker. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited just to see Robert Pattinson as this character.
Yeah.
I've said it before, not on air because I haven't had a platform to do that, but now with Geekverse Reactions I do. I think Robert Pattinson looks perfect and phenomenal as Batman. I might need a little convincing as Bruce Wayne, though. Just a little. That's kind of where I'm at, but I have full confidence that he's going to be able to. Because, after the Twilight Saga, he has shown that he is a phenomenal talent. Phenomenal.
Sure.
So I fully trust him to be able to portray Bruce Wayne and the Batman pretty great. But what do you think, those of you out there listening, first of all, do you think that this thread, we should view this as legit? Like, are you okay with, taking these words for truth and actually, expecting to see a 3-hour cut of Batman? I would kind of expect it probably to be trimmed down a little bit in between now and when we see it. But regardless, what do you think? Does this excite you? Is this legit? You tell us in the comments or over on Discord. We would love to hear from you. But that is our Batman news for this evening. But it's time for us to get into kind of the reaction, if you will, in Geekverse Reactions. We're going to react to a specific show that Marvel's got going on right now.
This little thing over there on some streaming service
called Disney Plus, right?
I think so. It's something to do with Mickey Mouse, don't
like
it?
No?
Yeah.
Well, DJ, take the reins on this news piece.
Well, as you probably are aware of, if you're listening or watching, the What If series has just been, in my opinion, groundbreaking. And I think in a lot of ways it's uniting the multiverse, especially after we saw Loki and even WandaVision and of course the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. The fact that we're getting into these things, I think is just really brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. So of course, up to now, of course, tomorrow morning, we'll see a new What If episode, which I'm not sure what the fourth one is.
I've seen an image going around about Doctor Strange. It's going to be Doctor Strange involved somehow.
Okay. Well, I love Doctor Strange, and my wife is a huge Doctor Strange fan. That was kind of her introduction into the MCU. She's been in love with that character for a while now, but she'll be looking forward to watching that. But I'm going to kind of just talk about the first one real quick, which was the Captain Carter episode. I have kind of what may be considered a hot take, sir, fresh out the oven, so to speak, about this Captain Carter one. Now, don't get too mad, guys. Okay, they're not
mad.
They're not. You can get mad all you want. I can deal with that. It's these comments. No, I'm just kidding. But I almost prefer Captain Carter to Captain America, and that's a bold statement, and I know that. But hear me out for just a moment. Okay, spoilers ahead if you have not yet seen Marvel's What If you're holding out, which I understand if you're going to try to binge watch them, a lot of folks do that.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into episodes 1 through 3, so just spoiler alert for What If in general.
All 3. Yeah. So here's my thing. I think that I've always liked the character of Peggy Carter from when I first saw her in Captain America, the First Avenger. I thought her character was super interesting because I really wanted to see her do more. And then I've only actually finished the first season of Agent Carter. And I know there's only 2 seasons. I wish there was a 3rd season because Haley Atwell is phenomenal as Peggy Carter. And I thought she did a fantastic job. Oh, Zach Horvath, Video Game Nightcap. Plug for Video Game Nightcap. Go check out Zach's channel. He says, "How dare you about Captain Carter?" Well, deal with it, brother. No, but I think she's fantastic. And I think that really what ends up happening at the end of that specific episode, how I don't know what that giant tentacle thing was there at the end. I'm assuming it's the Hydra monster, whatever that is called. But I love that she pushes that thing back into the wormhole of the Tesseract and then pops out. Oh, by the way, using a sword. Listen, I love swords. I mentioned Lord of the Rings. You've mentioned Game of Thrones. Swords are dope. Okay. I love swords. I'm a big Forged in Fire fan over there on History Channel. Love watching people make knives and swords. I think it's awesome. It's a beautiful piece of art there. But she pops out with a sword and a shield and goes to town. And then what happens? She shows up in 2012, right before the events of the Avengers. And I just thought, how cool would it be to see Peggy Carter square up against her friend Howard Stark's son, Tony? And no pun intended here, it's a stark difference between those two people, Howard and Tony. They're very different.
But
yeah. And so I thought that Captain Carter was just brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. So, and also I love the idea of Steve being Iron Man, basically, or Hydra Stomper. Oh, that's such a dope name. So I really, really enjoyed that one. Do you have any thoughts on episode 1 of What If, Captain Carter?
Man, I feel like I'm gonna, go dark side here. I didn't fully love episode 1, if I'm being completely honest. I thought it was kind of like just it skipped around so much. Like it went from here to there to, like you mentioned, next thing we're in modern time. Definitely disagree with your take about Captain Carter being more.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Totally fair.
But it was okay. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it, but I guess I was just expecting more with the first episode. But I enjoyed it. It just wasn't like mind blowing to me. But I love the idea. I loved the what if kind of scenarios, like you said, kind of introducing and getting people more comfortable with this multiverse idea that they're definitely heavily fixing to get into. So that's a plus. And I genuinely like the overall sense of it. Episode 1 was just kind of okay for me. It was good, but I just wasn't mind blown with it. But let's go ahead and move into episode 2, because I will go ahead and let you know, after episode 1, I very much so enjoyed the following 2. That's
great. I really enjoyed the second episode specifically, but for different reasons than most people. Than what I've heard. I've only maybe heard 1 or 2 people online talk about this that I've seen across Twitter or TikTok. But this was T'Challa if he was Star-Lord, if he took Peter Quill's mantle, I suppose. And this was interesting because, yes, if there's any one character in the MCU who could totally turn the Ravagers around from what we've seen in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, it would be T'Challa. I mean, it would be the Black Panther. And man, the fact that Chadwick Boseman this is his last role, like, listen, I didn't really know who he was before Black Panther.
Really? Hey, I highly suggest to check out 42.
I've seen 42.
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
But I had seen 42 before Black Panther and didn't realize that's who he was.
I see what you're saying.
And so I remember thinking, oh yeah, I really liked 42. It was great. And I love baseball movies. I mean, I adore baseball movies. But I mean, League of Their Own, Field of Dreams, The Natural. Come on. I mean, those all the Sandlot. I mean, those are just fantastic baseball movies. But when you get down to him being this his last role, it's wild to think that, because it just doesn't feel like it should be. And it's just what happens sometimes. But here's my biggest takeaway from it. And I loved his performance. I loved a lot about this episode, but I'm going to say just my one thing and toss it back over to you.
Okay.
My favorite thing about this was good guy Thanos.
Yes. Yeah, and I agree. That's what I was going to say, honestly. Yes.
Oh, cool. Okay. Good guy Thanos is great because I was watching it with my wife. We were sitting on the couch and I think we were eating dinner or something, and I'm sitting there watching it, and she says, are you are you crazy? You know, Nebula says, are you crazy? And he goes, I'm not crazy, just mad. And before he could even say just mad, I'm just like, he's mad. He's the Mad Titan. I was just freaking out because I was like, this is so dope. I mean, this guy, some T'Challa, all people, of course he can turn Thanos around. I just thought, fantastic. I want to hear everything you have to say about all of this, but tell me what you thought about this one.
No, first of all, those of you that don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy and that type of vibe is honestly probably like top 3 as far as MCU characters or just stories go. So just that in itself was already very intriguing for me as far as the second episode went. And then, like you said, good guy Thanos was really cool. Seeing T'Challa in this different atmosphere and, you know, more in that Guardians of the Galaxy type of lane, I really enjoyed that. I loved, you know, visiting all the different locations. And I was more appreciative of me being able to more so follow the story linearly in episode 2 compared to episode 1. Episode 1 for me kind of felt like it was just jumping around here and there. But outside of that, you know, I thoroughly enjoyed episode 2 a lot more, in my opinion, specifically because the Guardians of the Galaxy type of vibe. And number 2, you already mentioned it, Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa was great to see again.
Yeah, I saw I think the first one came out before episode 7, I think. Right?
Yeah. I think we're losing you a little bit, like our connection's kind of fading here, but that's okay.
Oh, no.
Hopefully we can keep it going. I think everything's okay now, so sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to just like notify you and warn you. But keep going. My bad.
That's okay.
My bad.
I'm trying to make sure I'm good. I think I'm good. You still got me, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. I got nervous for a second too because I heard the lag. Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I think, a year before The Force Awakens. And I remember seeing it thinking, wow, this is the closest thing to Star Wars I've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And, held to that for a while, I think, up until Force Awakens really kind of came out. So I'm a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. All that, I thought everything you said was ditto.
Okay, sweet.
Mystery. I like the vibe of this. I really like the vibe of this third one. For a lot, I had to focus on different things that I hadn't thought. The Incredible Hulk. I was really impressed with how we tied in the Incredible Hulk into this. And I had no idea that Thor, the Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2 all happened within days of each other. I thought that was really cool that they brought that into the mix, and we got to see kind of a Black Widow take the reins and go forward a little bit and also I love that we straight up heard Nick Fury say he was an Avenger. I thought, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but and I feel like I've always thought that, but it was really cool to hear him say there's just one left and it's me. And I thought that was a great tie-in, and it almost kind of makes me go back on the Captain Carter thing I said just a second ago, because the idea of Captain Marvel and Captain America teaming up to fight the Battle of New York, and who knows what else would have happened from that then on. I mean, I would love to hear the rest of that what if story, because I think that'd be something really, really cool to focus in on. But all of that to be said, I really, really enjoyed that one. It had me on the edge of my seat, literally. I think I actually went from here to here, I had to move closer to the TV and tunnel vision hard on it. And it was great. I thought it was fantastic. What do you have on it?
Episode 3 has by far been my favorite of the 3. I like the murder mystery kind of genre, and I liked like you said, kind of the different what if scenarios that we would have gotten had this story continued. So that kind of got my mental wheels a-turning, kind of what that would look like. And by far, the episode 3 murder mystery type of vibe that we got this past week, I really, really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. So with that said, I started off kind of hard here with kind of being critical of what if with episode 1, but hopefully I've kind of made it a little bit evident. It is getting better each week for me.
Absolutely.
Episode 1 was just kind of okay. Episode 2 I really enjoyed, and then episode 3 this past week has by far been my favorite. So I can't wait to see episode 4. Doctor Strange, you know, that poster came out today that it is going to be focused on that character. So that's got me intrigued because Doctor Strange is one of my faves, and we're actually going to talk about Doctor Strange a little bit next with our next news piece, and that is focused on a big deal, a huge deal. That is the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer that we have officially gotten. That for so long there, all of the Spider-Man diehards were kind of freaking out, like, when are we going to get this thing? But we have officially gotten it. So before we kind of maybe go into prediction mode, I just wanted to quickly just share our overall thoughts and more so reactions to the trailer. It was great. It was worth the wait. It was great to see Tom Holland back. It was great to see Doc Ock. It was cool to see all the connections to previous Spider-Man movies and all the teases to previous Spider-Man movies and all of the different possibilities that we could be getting. And speaking of that, this trailer, from what I understand, has broken the amount of views record, not only on like social medias, but I also believe on YouTube as far as the first 24 hours go. So incredible job done. I think, you know, regardless of how you feel about the trailer, Sony and crew made the correct decision in waiting to drop this trailer until last week or yeah, I think it was last week at this point when it dropped. They made the correct decision in waiting that long, even though that might not have been what everyone wanted, because it did break the internet, and my phone was going off basically the rest of the day as far as getting notifications of tweets from other people about what they thought. Discord, we talked about the Spider-Man trailer a little bit in our Discord, and just, you know, like we've said, we talk Star Wars here, but we had to pause. We had to pause in our Discord talking about Star Wars and talk about Spider-Man, the trailer. That's how important this thing is to so many people, because this character is connected with so many people. But what were your overall impressions? You know, I enjoyed the thrills, the action shots, the possibilities that were introduced. What were your overall thoughts and reactions to the trailer?
In a word, and I do mean one word, pumped.
Okay.
I'm absolutely pumped. I guess that's 2 words, but still, I was pumped after seeing it because, you know, I thought, you know, this is something that we weren't going to get. I honestly was convinced we would never get a trailer. We were just going to show up blind.
Show up, yeah.
And I kind of almost, now that I've seen the trailer and seen how awesome it is, I'm just like, kind of wish that we could have just never seen it. And I know I could have avoided. I know I could have maybe tried to avoid the trailer. I mean,
I don't know. I feel like everyone has seen some sort of image or something from this trailer. Everyone.
I've seen it on every social media I'm on at least once a day since it dropped.
Yes.
You know,
same.
And it's been that big of a deal. Here, I do have a couple of like breakdown thoughts, if that's okay.
Yeah,
if
sure.
I can very quickly do that. From the moment like it starts to when the Marvel Studios logo pops up, I'm going to say this now, all of those shots take place within the first 30 minutes of the movie. Okay. Everything with him on the roof with MJ, them walking through the crowds, the swinging through New York, all of that. First 30 minutes done. And then we go see Doctor Strange. You know, that's my immediate takeaway from the trailer, aside from just being excited.
Yeah.
You know, that's my first assumption, I guess, maybe, you know, and I guess that's a pretty safe bet, you know, because that swinging scene stuff with him in the non-iron spider suit, that's all from the tail end of Far From Home. I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
So that's my first initial thought about it. But other than that, I mean, I'm absolutely pumped. I have some dark side type thoughts. I'll wait and I'll toss it back to you to see what else you might want to have to say, unless that was it, unless you had something else.
No, I think you nailed it. I did forget to mention with my overall reactions, Doctor Strange. Seeing him,
Yeah.
I knew he was going to be in the movie just from different reports,
Yeah.
and articles that were out there. And there's been some hate with that, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. With the first Spider-Man and the second one, really, a lot of people felt like Tony Stark, Iron Man, was carrying the way. And now in this third one, they're bringing Doctor Strange in. I know some people with the MCU, we want those connections, and that's where I'm at. I like these connections. I like seeing all of these characters come into play in all of these different projects. But I've also seen the flip side of people saying, why does Spider-Man need another superhero there to help him? He should be able to do things on his own at this point. What are your thoughts on that? Because I fall on the side of, that doesn't bother me. Give me Doctor Strange. I love seeing it. But I've also seen people on the other end of that spectrum, though.
Okay. I'll answer your question with a question.
Oh, okay.
Does it bother you that Anakin Skywalker lost his master Qui-Gon Jinn, but then was trained by Obi-Wan?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So then why should it bother anybody if Peter Parker loses his master trainer, whatever,
yes.
Tony Stark, and then gets pawned off, if you will, to Doctor Strange?
That's a great question, and that's a great rebuttal. It
shouldn't matter.
And that's why I agree with you.
It shouldn't matter because, like you, I'm all for the tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
I think Doctor Strange is awesome. Not to mention, we went from one Sherlock to the other. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, that's
so
cool right there. That's cool.
I think I love that, they had scenes together in Infinity War and Endgame, because I wanted there to be a Sherlock reference in the writing so bad, but it didn't, of course, happen.
Yeah.
And I think the internet would have went nuts if it had happened. But all that to say, I don't have any issue with Doctor Strange being here. However, I've seen people are dying for Mephisto to come into the MCU.
They've been dying for Mephisto ever since WandaVision.
And I kept thinking Mephisto would show up somewhere, maybe if not WandaVision, maybe in Loki, but of course those didn't happen. Now people are saying, oh, that's not even Stephen Strange. That's Mephisto, doing a projection. And I'm like, okay, it could happen, but it's it's not a stretch. It's just one of those.
Nah.
You guys are just wanting something too bad,
Yeah.
And so I think that's definitely Stephen Strange. I have no problem with him being there personally. I think it's a good idea you got to remember, Peter Parker is still in high school. By the time we got to the third Tobey Maguire movie, this dude was already, done with high school. He was done with high school before the first act of the first Spider-Man movie was even done with. So, yeah. I mean, we got our introduction to Green Goblin, then boom, there was him graduating high school. And honestly, in Andrew Garfield, the same thing happened. So I like that we're stretching out this period of time where we're letting Peter just be a kid instead of rushing to get to him to be on his own and having to navigate life. And he's still trying to navigate life, but this is going to hit home with a lot of younger audiences, I think. And I think that's important for us as those who maybe are a little bit older, to understand, hey, there's people we can help train up and help them learn the ropes.
Yeah.
And I think Peter still needs that. And I think by the end of this movie, we won't need that anymore. I think that after this movie, Tom Holland can run off into his own, Peter Parker Spider-Man thing, and not have to rely on these grounded, seasoned actors and characters.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with your take, absolutely. But I just wanted to hear kind of your opinion, because that is one negative thing, at least that I've seen. And there hasn't been a lot of negatives. So I just felt the need to kind of bring it up to kind of just have that conversation of what we thought about that take. What were your dark side things before we kind of move into the next thing?
I'm going to make somebody cry with this one. I already know it. I think Happy Hogan is going to die.
Ooh.
I really think Happy's going to die.
Ooh. Okay.
And look, we don't have much of a use for Iron Man at this point. They're not going to resurrect the guy. He's not coming back. If he comes back, Endgame is worthless. I'm sorry. It means nothing anymore. And that's my opinion. And that's a harsh opinion. I realize that. So we need to start tying up loose ends, which sounds awful, but I think Happy Hogan is going to die. And I think this is going to kind of be Tom Holland's Uncle Ben moment.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, in that shot, in that trailer, Jon Favreau is in a car and he's surrounded by fire.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not no proof of this, but I think it'd be cool if he were to die via Willem Dafoe's Goblin. Kind of how he put Aunt May in the hospital in the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that would be neat. You know, that's kind of me just kind of hoping, and I don't see that really happening.
Sure.
I think it'd just be a neat moment, but that's my darkest dark side thought on this trailer is that I think Happy Hogan dies. That's just me.
I think that's a possibility for sure.
Okay.
Because, I mean, let's be real. Favreau's kind of busy now. You know, let's connect this to Star Wars. Favreau's kind of busy to kind of just go to the side and shoot something real quick. You know, he's too busy making all these Star Wars stories, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, we did have someone jump down in the comments, and that was my lovely wife.
Lovely wife.
My
we
lovely
appreciate
wife.
It.
Yes, Hillary. She says, personally, she's looking forward to figuring out this how the same man who was so overcome with potential outcomes is so eager to help Spider-Man reverse the world knowing his identity, which I see the logic there. And she goes on to say, like, what changed and how much would strange intentional chaos from his spell to help Peter Parker play into the multiverse of madness? I mean, that's a great question.
I think it'll directly connect in some way. I think this movie is going to be massive. As far as
it's a setup, yes.
Yeah.
100% a major setup for whatever's coming next, along with Shang-Chi and also the Eternals.
Yes.
So really looking forward to Spider-Man as a whole.
Yeah. You mentioned Eternals. I'm fixing to throw a hot take here.
Okay.
I'm more excited for Eternals than Spider-Man.
I have no idea what the Eternals really are.
And that's why I'm so excited, I guess, is because I don't know anything, man.
It's
and
the not knowing.
We just kind of talked about that with my top 5. I put Marvel at number 1 because I love not knowing where it's going.
Right.
I guess that's just a trait of mine as far as liking things.
You're discovering things about yourself. You know, this is cheaper than therapy. So there you go.
This is great.
No, I get that. I see that. I'm not really that guy. I'm not that guy, pal. I'm not that guy, pal. Trust me. I'm not that guy.
Let's go.
But I think we both spend too much time on TikTok is what I'm understanding.
Hey, you got to work on it. You got to work on Mando Talk at TikTok. So that means I'm going to accidentally see some videos there. That's shameless plug at Mando Talk
accidentally.
On TikTok.
We're on all the socials. All right. On all of the socials. Anyway, yeah, I get that. I get that to some degree, but let's go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Can we go on to the next thing?
Yeah, that's fine.
Man, we've been rolling for an hour and a half,
dude.
brother.
We've been going for a hot minute. So let's go ahead and go.
It doesn't feel like an hour and a half.
We kind of lose time. You know, we're here in this Geekverse reaction zone, and we're just reacting to the Geekverse, baby. So we just get lost with time, you know. But let's get to that last news piece.
And are we going Shang-Chi or No Time to Die?
You know, let's go out the door with Shang-Chi, but let's hit the No Time to Die real quick.
Well, I haven't seen it, so I'm going to have you talk about it.
Okay. Well, I wasn't going to add too much other than letting the audience members know, those of you that are listening know that the 007 James Bond No Time to Die trailer, U.S. and international trailer released today. And, you know, it's a lot of footage that we've seen before in previous trailers because this movie was supposed to come out in 2020 originally. But then, you know, because of COVID, it got delayed and delayed and delayed. So, with that said, not a lot there, but it does kind of treat it more so like a montage of this is Daniel Craig's last movie as James Bond. So, it kind of tries to play with those emotional heartstrings, if you will, as far as connecting it and showing old footage from all of his previous movies and saying, oh, come check out the last performance of Daniel Craig as James Bond. And I'm
actually looking at the trailer right now.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say that it does a good job of kind of doing that and making you want to, for me, I kind of thought, oh, maybe I should go back and check out some of these movies again because they're fun. I enjoy watching James Bond movies, and I would love to go see this when it does come out. And all I was really going to want to talk about with this, as far as this trailer goes, is James Bond is an old franchise. Does James Bond, the franchise, still excite us to this day? And for me, I was just going to say real quickly that I don't really think about James Bond until a new movie's coming out and I see the trailer and I see how sleek and cool and sexy and all those cool things and how it looks. Then I'm intrigued again. But then after I see it, I'm like, okay, I don't need to think about James Bond anymore.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that when a movie comes out, I'm there.
Yeah.
But when it's not coming out, it's like I can honestly kind of live without it at this point. What do you think?
Well, I don't want to say I could live without James Bond.
Okay.
I think that he's one of those characters that is so important to cinema as a whole.
Sure.
That without him, like let's face the facts here. There is no Indiana Jones without James Bond.
True.
I'm sure you're aware of this.
Facts.
You know, Lucas and Spielberg or specifically Spielberg, he could not get into the director's chair to do James Bond. Mm-hmm. And George and him are sitting on a beach in Hawaii waiting on Star Wars to finish its run in 77. And he's like, I got this idea for this archaeologist. He's kind of like James Bond. That's literally the pitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's literally the pitch, man. And the fact that we've gotten to a point where James Bond has been inspiration to what was recently, and I can't remember what outlet it was. He's the inspiration behind the greatest action hero of all time, according to movies, and that this poll that was run, and it's Indiana Jones. So, and not to mention, James Bond is Indiana Jones's dad. Okay,
yeah,
we can't leave that out. So,
yeah, good call.
I don't think I can I can go without James.
Yeah,
Bond.
and that's more so.
But
what I meant. Like we can.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily need more, but I appreciate seeing the character like Hollywood without James Bond.
No, you can't. And he's a classic character. I mean, I have a playlist I listen to on occasion. I just call it movie music. Mm-hmm. And the 007 theme from Casino Royale is on that list. And dude, when I'm driving down the road, and especially on those windy back roads, I crank that sucker. I mean, it's so much fun. Sorry, Hillary, and either maybe my mom, if you're watching this, I sometimes drive a little crazy when James Bond music is playing. I'm sort of safe, but anyway, we'll move on. I love James Bond, and I think that without James Bond, we don't have characters like Jason Bourne.
You're right.
I mean, I've had conversations with specifically my dad. I've had this conversation. I'm like, you've got England's got James Bond. America has Jason Bourne. Mm-hmm. They're, first of all, same initials. They basically do the exact same thing, except one is not running away all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and so I love James Bond. I'm excited about it. I won't go see it like opening weekend.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm probably the same way.
But I want to see it because one of mine and my wife's first dates was to go see Skyfall.
Ooh, that's cool.
Together.
That's a good movie to see together.
And I loved Skyfall. She had never seen a James Bond movie before that day.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, for us, I really kind of latch on to that for a lot of reasons. But I loved Daniel Craig as James Bond, and that his last outing, it's the end of an era for sure.
Yeah, it is.
I think we need to let it rest for about 15 or 20 years before we pick it back up.
Okay.
I mean, we went from Pierce Brosnan to Daniel Craig within like a span of less than a decade.
Sure. Yeah, I think we'll see.
The first one was 2006 with Daniel Craig, and
yeah. I think we'll see. We'll see. I think the franchise, I don't think it's going anywhere, but I do think after Daniel Craig kind of bookends it with this one, I think there probably will be a little break with it, enough to kind of get people more interested in the character again. One of those scenarios where less is more. I think after we take a break from that character a little bit more, maybe interest in that character will spike back up again. Yeah. But let's get out of here by, just quickly sharing real quick Shang-Chi, and I think it's Legend of the Ten Rings. I think that's kind of like the subtitle of that episode. So. Or sorry, not episode, movie. That movie is coming out this coming weekend. I believe September 3rd is the date, the opening date. Okay. Meaning, I think, if it's still working the same way, because it's been a minute since I've done this, I think that means you can go see it as early as September 2nd at night. But I don't know if they're still doing that at movie theaters, because that's a whole different whole different ball game now.
Yeah, I saw Black Widow on a Thursday before the
Okay.
official first
Okay.
day.
So
So
that means by the
yeah,
next time that we do Geekverse reactions again, people out there would have seen that film. So,
yeah.
real quickly, what I wanted to do is just share our excitement level for it. I will go ahead and start that just real quickly and give my quick take on it, and then we'll kind of wrap up the show. Um, Not the most excited for this movie originally. You know, I've been more excited for other Marvel films, but from hearing and listening to people that I have followed for years over on YouTube that have had the ability to watch the premiere, the world premiere that they had, see their reaction, their non-spoiler reactions, they are talking about it being like a top 5 comic book movie ever. And I was surprised when I heard that. That was enough for me to now try at some point this weekend to go see it. So I'll leave it at that. There's a lot of people out there that are loving this thing, and so that means I'm going to definitely try to go see it as soon as I can. What about you, DJ?
Well, I definitely have low expectations for it, but that's because I know nothing about the character.
Yeah, good
So
call.
because I'm very unfamiliar with the character. I mean, I'm gonna just be real honest. I'm very unfamiliar with most comic book characters before the movie comes out. I don't read comics like that. I mean, I've dived into the Star Wars comics, but that's different. You know, that's not your Spider-Man. That's not your, Captain America's, etc. So for me, this is a fresh thing. And I welcome something fresh.
Yeah.
I want something new. So for me, what really got me excited, and this is why I want to go see it this weekend, was actually the Marvel one shot that was released on Disney Plus
Ooh, yeah,
about the
good call.
Mandarin. And have you seen that one
Yeah.
yet?
I
Yeah,
actually watched it a couple of days ago because I had a feeling they put that out there for a reason.
Yeah, and I watched it a couple days ago as well. And then last night, knowing that Abomination from Incredible Hulk is going to be fighting Wong from Doctor Strange in some sort of Thunderdome, I was like, oh, I should probably rewatch the Incredible Hulk. So last night we rented on Amazon the Incredible Hulk and watched it, and I was like, okay, so I didn't really need to re-see it, but or rewatch it, but it helped to remember, oh, this guy's kind of like a super bad guy, like he's a villain.
Right.
And it's nice to know he's out there doing something. So for me, I'm just looking forward to seeing that. Sir Ben Kingsley, the Mandarin, is returning as the Mandarin. No one's talking about this.
Yeah. Well,
I've not seen anybody talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what role he's going to have. I do know that we're going to actually finally see the real Mandarin, not the actor, which is a big deal. And so that's going to connect back to Iron Man 3. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's going to connect back to that, which is cool. So I've been meaning to see that, rewatch that movie before I go see it. We'll see if I'm able to get that done. But I think that's going to be an important tie-in. And I think, like you mentioned, that short that they have done in the past, but they put it on Disney Plus this past week, was put there for a reason. So go check out those things.
Yeah.
And there's a great article out there, I think. If you just Google search what to watch before Shang-Chi, there's a great article that lists out the different films and shorts that you should probably check out if you can. One thing I'll say this about
now.
Marvel, just real quickly. Marvel does a great job of giving you a movie that you feel like you have to see stuff beforehand, but you really don't. So if you can't get this stuff in before going to see the film, don't feel like you have to. If you have time to go check out Shang-Chi, go do it. Don't worry about trying to watch stuff beforehand. Just go enjoy the movie because Marvel does a great job of allowing you to do just that. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, no, you're fine. You needed to finish your thought. I was interrupting, and I'm really good at interrupting. Trust me. But I would say that you mentioned you don't have to rewatch anything, and I would totally agree with that. I think what's good about a lot of Marvel movies is that once you get done watching it, you're like, oh, I need to go back and rewatch this. I mean, at the end of Black Widow, I felt that way. I need to go back and rewatch a few things. So, but my essentials, this is Rebel Scum Texans essentials before seeing Shang-Chi. Okay.
List.
This is I did the research. I dug a little bit. This is what I think is probably the most essential in actual order, like number 1 to number whatever.
Okay.
I think Iron Man, the first one, is essential to rewatch. The Incredible Hulk, I will say, is also essential to rewatch. Iron Man 3, I would also say, is 100% essential to rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
The one shot, honestly, I should move that up because that one shot, I mean, was incredible.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I think we all need to go back and rewatch that. And then this is kind of like you don't have to, but it might help. Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I think if you were to rewatch those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, I think you'd be set up and ready to go for Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Which I don't need to rewatch Doctor Strange. I've seen it 100 times. I just recently watched Iron Man 3, and The Incredible Hulk. I have seen all of these recently.
There you go.
So I'm ready to go.
You're ready.
I'm more ready than I really thought I was, to be honest with you, because I'm just kind of been sitting on this and not really cared too much about it, except when it pops up on Hulu for the 5th or 6th time in an hour. Good Lord, Hulu needs better commercials. It's like the same 4 commercials. But anyway, that's the different thing for something else. I can rant about that somewhere else. I'll do that on my personal Twitter, not the rest of
let's
Twitter.
Do that. Well,
but anyway, that's what I have to say.
Okay.
On those, and I think that those are worth the rewatch for sure.
Sweet. Well, listen, that is it. That is officially all of the different things that we wanted to hit here on our first episode of Geekverse Reactions. And, probably admittedly, this one's going to be a little bit longer than normal. We'll always try to fit in like the 45-minute to an hour kind of episode, but we had a lot of things to cover. We wanted to make sure that you were up to date as far as, the big kind of breaking news as far as stuff in the Geekverse went. But since this was our first one, we wanted to make sure that you knew why we were doing it and kind of our top 5 Geekverse projects, properties outside of Star Wars, because I felt the need that you guys needed to hear that to try to understand, why we felt the need to do this show. But I appreciate all of you out there that, potentially watched this live with us throughout this entire time. We went long, but I hope you enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it. It didn't feel as long as it's actually been. I'm looking at the clock now and I'm like, wow, I need to go to bed, but that's fine. We had a good time. And DJ, I really appreciate you being here.
I'm glad to be here. I mean, I'm always good to talk geek stuff, Star Wars stuff, all the above. I mean, it's always a good time. But like you said, man, my spider sense is tingling. Time's running out. So we should probably cap it off.
Yeah. All right. Well, Thursday, we will see you then for our Thursday live stream covering the past week in Star Wars news. But we're also going to cover Disney Gallery, the making of the season 2 finale for The Mandalorian. We're going to finally get to talk about that, and I can't wait to do that. We appreciate the support. Let's get out of here. I'm not going to end this with We Have Spoken. We got to come up with something different for Geekverse Reactions. So let me, take this to the audience. If you have a cool call-out sign that we should incorporate into Geekverse Reactions, let us know. But until next time, have a great day, have a great week, and we will see you on Thursday.